What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Teed Up. I'm your host, Pierre, Pee Wee the Plug, and Dreesen. We are back with another jam-packed week of incredible basketball talk. We got a lot of special things going on. We usually record this on Wednesdays at around noon, but right now it's a Tuesday night. So shout out to the team for making this happen. There's apparently going to be some crazy inches of snow tomorrow in Chicago and the Chicagoland area. So to avoid any craziness, we making sure that this comes out on time and that nothing get delayed for y'all. So we put in extra work today. We've already did a bunch of hours of the regular podcast and numbers on the board earlier. So get it ahead of the curve and to make sure y'all don't have to miss an episode or anything like that, because it's about to get real crazy with All-Star on the way. We decided to make some things happen. Today is going to be a different type of episode. We got some unique awards that I'm going to get into in just a second, and I'm going to tie those awards into some of the things that's happening around the league. We want to do something chill, something relaxed. I think y'all have heard me talk about every single topic in the NBA about 4 or 5 times already, with numbers on the board, the linear show, my YouTube channel, previous episodes of Teed Up. I know y'all tired of hearing the same topics getting repeated and repeated and repeated. So we did something fresh. Shout out to Christian. Christian had some of this idea of, doing something a little different. I threw my twist on it. We're going to call this, what do I want to call this? See, I was trying to put a twist on it because you have the VMAs, you have the Grammys, you have the Oscars. So I was trying to put my twist on it. We just gonna call this the Pluggers Award, Midseason Awards. Now, when I say Midseason Awards, I do want to say this is not the traditional awards. We're not only creating our own award show, but we're making our own awards. So you will not I'm not here to tell you that Shea is the midseason MVP, because you already know that. Our viewers and our community is smart, intelligent basketball knowers. So I do not want to tell y'all information that y'all already know. I don't want to give y'all the same midseason first team All-NBA that you've seen 19 other creators give you. The same defensive player. Wemby is a defensive player. No, that's not how we're doing it. The first award is not All-NBA, but I got to give a big shout out to our producer, Christian. It is the All-Sympathy team. I love this award. Christian threw about 7 or 8 awards at me, and this one is the one that captured my heart right off the top. I was like, ooh, I like that. All-Sympathy team. My first player that made the All-Sympathy team is Jalen Hood-Schifino. Jalen Hood-Schifino is probably not a name that y'all thought y'all were going to hear on this episode. Recently involved in the Luka Doncic trade, the trade that just can't get enough of the NBA world. We're going to be talking about that trade for the next 2 years, I'm telling you. He was involved with the third team, which was the Utah Jazz, who Danny Ainge apparently did not know that this trade was happening when he got involved. And he got the 2 first-round picks. He also got Jalen Hood-Schifino, and ultimately Utah waived Jalen Hood-Schifino. Now, the reason I have sympathy for Jalen Hood-Schifino is because I liked Jalen Hood-Schifino coming into the draft a couple of years ago. Coming out of Indiana, I felt that he had a really strong freshman campaign. He put together a nice year, showed ability to play out of the pick and roll, got to the mid-range spots on each elbow real smoothly, sound decision maker, incredible positional size at 6'5". Was he the most perfect prospect in the world? No. And I don't really think that those prospects exist at a one-and-done 18, 19-year-old age. But long story short, I appreciated him as a prospect. And when he was drafted by the Lakers, I was halfway excited and halfway worried. I was excited because the Lakers needed guard play at the time. They needed guard play at the time. And usually LeBron James-led teams don't value first-round picks. Now, the Lakers are in a position where they had to use it. And I felt that if they were going to use it on him, that they saw something in him to invest in him and, want to develop him as a talent. Long story short, we just wasn't able to see that over the last couple of years. I don't even know who Jalen Hood-Schifino is as a pro. And to see him get traded to Utah, which is a young team, they do have a bunch of guards there. But when you get waived, it can get real murky and real scary in the league, especially as a 19-year-old guy. And I was just a fan, and I hate seeing guys like him get caught up in the business and gets caught up in a situation where you're going to the wrong team. And I feel like he's also been a guy that's kind of been looked at in the wrong way because historically, Jaime Jaquez was the direct pick after him. And we know how Jaime Jaquez was as a rookie with the Miami Heat. And that just made the Lakers pick look a little worse. I remember the backlash on Twitter when Jaime Jaquez got the cooking in his rookie year. A lot of people was like, man, that's the guy that the Lakers could have had him, but they took Jalen Hood-Schifino. So now people hear the name Jalen Hood-Schifino in Laker Nation, they just shit on the kid. But again, I'm not here to tell you that Jalen Hood-Schifino was the best player in the draft and that if he went to another team, he would be an all-star in the second year, anything like that. I just hate to see a young talent go to a team where he's not given an opportunity and he doesn't have the proper development to potentially become some type of serviceable NBA player. And it's also tough because Jalen Hood-Schifino was one of those cases where he had such a strong freshman year that he had to go to the NBA. Some of these guys in a one and done, they have to go regardless because the upside of going back to school just isn't there. You know what I mean? The risk isn't worth the reward. You can potentially go back for a sophomore season and try to play your way into a higher pick, and maybe you'll secure yourself as a top 10 pick. Or there's the other reality where you go back to school and you get hurt. You don't have that strong of a season. You go from being a guaranteed first round pick to now your name is not even in the conversation. There's a kid in college right now. I know Christian knows him and familiar with him. Riley Kugel from Kugel from Florida. I remember when he had that freshman year at Florida, he was all over the draft boards. And now all of a sudden he's had to transfer. I don't see his name on draft boards anymore. And that fast, the draft buzz just goes away. Now, I'm not here to write his story off for him. He's still young. He still could potentially find his way into the NBA in some way, shape, or form. But the NBA and the opportunity is once in a lifetime. So when the NBA execs and the scouts come and tell you that there's an opportunity for you to make the league and be a guaranteed first round pick, you have to go. But I feel like there's something there with Jalen Hood-Schifino that wasn't molded. And I'm a big believer in whatever team you go to first will make or break your career depending on how they handle your development. I just wish he would have went to a better situation. Moving on. The next player that we have has been a guy that's dominated the headlines for the last 3 or 4 or 5 days, and that's Mark Williams. Obviously, recently, he was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers on the trade deadline, one of the last big splashes of the deadline, a pick that a lot of people, or a trade that a lot of people thought positioned the Lakers really, really well. It was looking like the Lakers were about to become really, really scary. They had just got Luka, and they somehow was able to go and get a 23-year-old center that seemed to have a lot of upside. The only downfall was his health. You know, in his short NBA career, he dealt with a lot of different injuries, some bigger than others, but they started to pile up in a very short term. And, you know, after the trade, one of the first times in my recalling, a trade was rescinded after the trade deadline. Very, very different, very rare. But apparently Mark Williams and his physical wasn't well. He wasn't able to pass the physical. Now, that's not an issue. The issue with Mark Williams is that he already had the injury tag on his name, right? I remember all of the articles that Laker forums and websites were writing when they acquired Mark Williams. They were like, hey, this guy is an incredible talent. He is a guy that could probably, you know, do a lot of different damage with Luka Doncic. That little being Luka's running mate, live mate would be real good for him. But there is this consistency with these injuries that we've seen in his career. And he already had the injury-prone tag. They're saying that the physicals have multiple things. He's been dealing with a back injury for a while. Apparently, this back injury has been so bad he hasn't even been able to really do work in a weight room, apparently in Charlotte, with his weight training and conditioning. That, like, apparently the lifting it like triggers his back, so he hasn't been able to lock in there. He's had this ankle injury since the beginning of his career that's kind of been, you know, here and there, but I don't know if that's one of it. And then he's also had this foot and his knee issue. And again, they haven't specified what exactly the things are, but there is multiple things. And for him to be a 7'1", 7'2" big man, when you start to talk about ankle, foot, knee, back, all of those are severe things to have, attached to you as far as injuries. And so my biggest thing and why I sympathize for Mark Williams is, number one, he doesn't have the same opportunity. Playing in LA is a way bigger stage in itself than playing in Charlotte. But also the Lakers are now the 4th seed out east, and you have the ability to go from playing with LaMelo, who himself is having a hard time staying on the floor, but then playing with LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves. That was going to make Mark Williams be a whole different player. I kept saying, like, if Mark Williams is an 81 overall with the Lakers, he goes up +6. He's like an 86, 87 overall because of all of the playmakers he's going to play with. Now you remove that opportunity, and then I think about the future of his career. I don't know too many teams and too many GMs that are going to be willing to invest big long-term money into Mark Williams with this cloud over him now. He's going to forever be known as a guy that had the trade rescinded because of his physicals. For the rest of his career, people are going to worry about his physicals. Unless he goes and plays for 5 straight years and shows us that was cap and that was some bullshit, I think this is something that's going to follow him. And it looks like it's spilling over into Charlotte, right? Because you have mixed conversations about how this trade came about. You got Rob Pelinka saying that the Charlotte Hornets brought him the trade. You got the Charlotte Hornets saying that the Lakers aggressively pursued him. And this is already a weird trade, but obviously players and their emotions. Even Dalton Connect the other night was telling JJ Redick that he was going to need more time to process this whole situation before he got back on the court. So I feel for Mark Williams, man. I feel for him. And I hope that it's not a cloud that I think it's going to be, but just knowing the business of the NBA, I could definitely see this being something that a lot of teams in this cutthroat business try to use against him. It's just what it is. Every time he goes to that meeting or he goes to the table trying to get a contract or figure out a big payday, they're going to bring this up and they're going to say, well, what do the physicals look like? What do the physicals look like? And if he can't pass the physicals, on a trade like this, you have to wonder how big were those issues that the Lakers found, because this was a big trade for the Lakers. And if they're willing to rescind the trade, that means they found some glaring issues. Apparently the Hornets are going to try to fight this. Good luck, Charlotte. I think it's a big waste of time. LA, blessing in disguise, man. Blessing in disguise. Next guy, staying in Charlotte, Trey Mann. Trey Mann played 13 games this season, was averaging career highs, I think, in points, assists, and rebounds. Really seemed like he was carving out a lane for himself as a microwave scorer off the bench. He even stepped in the starting lineup for a little bit. Had some really big performances for Charlotte. A guy that I was a fan of over the last few years, especially in the draft, coming out of Florida. I liked his game a lot. Really felt like he wasn't able to cement himself out there in OKC because they had so much guard play, an abundance of guards there, and it was a little bit of a log jam, and he kind of got caught up in that. But the Gordon Hayward trade, shout out to Gordon Hayward, it allowed him to get to Charlotte. And I think Charlotte was a good landing spot for him. A lot of freedom, a lot of a lot of other youthful guys that he could run with and learn with. And I feel like this was his coming out party. But for it to be 13 games in and kind of be cut short with this season ending back injury was a big blow, right? It's a real big blow. And I feel for guys like Trey Mann, you finally, after years of kind of just being up and down, trying to figure yourself out, carve out a lane for yourself in OKC, not really getting the consistent minutes and opportunity that you want, you finally get it. And not only do you get the opportunity, you do something with the opportunity. Like Trey Mann was like he was a big name that a lot of people was talking about early in the season. He was a most improved player candidate, and he's going into a payday, and that's why I sympathize with him. He was going to go into the offseason. He was going to command a big payday and probably get a nice extension from the Hornets. There's still a possibility. But again, anytime these injuries come into play, and it's something like a back injury, which we've seen be so severe to other talents in league history, I don't know if Charlotte is going to be ready and willing to commit the same type of payday. Because I'm a Trey Mann fan, I hope that the Charlotte Hornets don't care. I hope they bring out the Brinks truck. I want to see my young boy get paid. But again, this is a business. And when injuries come into play, it's very hard for players to get paid coming off of an injury, especially a season-ending injury where you only played 13 games. Don't know if that's going to be a big enough sample size for them to believe in it. But ultimately, again, I'm bringing Trey Mann on here because young talent finally figuring out, finally getting an opportunity, capitalizing on it, and then that fast to be taken away in a season where, you're looking to get your payday and solidify yourself in this league, it kind of runs dry. So shout out to Trey Mann. Get healthy soon, bro. Enjoy watching you when you're on the floor. And I still hope that you're able to get that payday soon. Next guy hits home for me. A guy that I've always been a fan of, but obviously last year was a really incredible year. It was super, super dope for me as a fan. Dante DiVincenzo, man. Dante DiVincenzo was a rock star. He was becoming beloved in New York, playing with the Villanova boys. We were winning games. You cannot tell me if we aren't healthy, we don't go to the Eastern Conference Finals. No hate, no shade to the Pacers. It just is what it is. You can't convince me otherwise. And I know for him to come off of that season, come off of that playoff run, doing the things that he did, and then out of nowhere kind of being traded to Minnesota and having a totally different season. You know what I mean? Dante DiVincenzo is not having the season that he was having last year. He's not having the same success. He's dealing with a toe injury right now. He broke his toe. Minnesota's not, as good as the Knicks are or was last year. And it's just a lot going on there. I think at one point early in the season, his name was even brought up in like trade conversations. And it just go from being a guy who could do no wrong in New York City. We know New York City is one of the toughest places to play, but you can do no wrong there. They're looking at you like a folk hero, a cultural figure for the city at the time. It looks like we're going to go into another great year. They just got Mikal. You add another Villanova boy. Everything is going up. And then out of nowhere, right before the season happens, you get traded. And you leave all of that and you go to Minnesota. And again, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, I guess, if Minnesota was kind of having the same success that they were having last year. But the fact that it's kind of been an up and down year, 1 point, the Timberwolves are on a 3-game losing streak. The next minute, they're on a 4-game, win streak. They're just going back and forth, winning streak, losing streak, winning streak, losing streak, winning streak, losing streak. And there's just been inconsistencies all around the roster outside of Anthony Edwards. And I could just only imagine the frustration and the feeling for Dante DiVincenzo, especially because, again, his Villanova brothers are still on the Knicks, still winning, still having some incredible moments, still looking like they're going to have a successful season for the most part. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, obviously. I just know that it has to be a little tough to be thrown in a trade like that coming off of the season he had. So shout out to Dante DiVincenzo. I'm definitely sympathizing for my guy. And then last but not least, to round out our all-sympathy team, Anthony Davis. It has to be Anthony Davis, man. I just feel for him. Anthony Davis didn't ask to be traded, right? Seems like he doesn't have a problem that he was traded, right? He's embraced the entire trade and has tried to take it chin on as best as he can, been a professional about it the whole time. To have the debut that he had where he looked like New Orleans Pelicans Anthony Davis. He even had the moment where I'm here. They dominate the Rockets. He dominated Sengun. He hit 2 threes. He had about 7 assists, 3 blocks, 27, 12 or 14, whatever. He dominated. And for a second there, it kind of felt like I don't want to, over exaggerate it, but soften the blow is the term I'll lose. He ain't making nobody forget about the Luka trade. Even if the Mavericks win a championship, the fans ain't forgetting that Luka trade. You probably have to three-peat for them to be like, all right, we guess you did your thing. we guess we'll accept it. But for him to have the debut that he had, for him to give that city and those fans, those 30 minutes or so of like softening the blow of the Luka trade, and then to get hurt, that sucked, bro. That sucked because, again, he's already behind the 8 ball, right? He got traded for their guy. Like, that's their GOAT. Dallas Maverick fans, their GOATs are Dirk and Luka. And Anthony Davis got traded for one of them. And just because of that, the fans they're already just not going to be probably the biggest fans of Anthony Davis because they can't accept the trade. And then for him to kind of make a great first impression, I was told when I was younger, you never get a second chance at a first impression. So he was doing a damn good job of leaving a really good first impression. And again, even me, I was watching that game like, damn, Nico Harrison's still stupid, but this trade this might be all right. They may be all right team. they may be solid. And now to lose him for a month, it just creates a trade being a more bigger idiotic move, right? Anthony Davis is going to be gone for about a month. They lost Daniel Gafford last night. He's going to be gone for 2 weeks with a knee sprain. They already don't have Dwight Powell. They don't have Derek Lively. And they're on the verge of potentially setting themselves up to be on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs and the play-in. Depending on how they handle this stretch or this month without Anthony Davis or most of their bigs is going to be really vital for the success that they could potentially have. And I don't know what's going to happen, but what I'm thinking is, in a hypothetical world, if the Mavericks were to miss the playoffs, I don't know what they're going to be able to sell their fan base. You trade Luka, who's historically been able to at the least get you in the playoffs, no matter what type of talent you've been able to put around him. After that rookie year, he's been getting you in the playoffs, right? As long as he's been healthy. You did have that 1 year. He wasn't as healthy. That's what got you the Derek Lively pick or whatever. Cool. As long as Luka has been healthy, he's getting you in the playoffs. You trade him. You get Anthony Davis. And a guy, again, this was my concern. You talk all that shit about Luka, his conditioning, availability, focus, yada, yada, yada. You trade him for Anthony Davis, who's about 7 years older, and now you're really operating your team around Kyrie and Anthony Davis as they go into their 30s, two guys who career-wise, historically, have dealt with injuries. And in Anthony Davis's first game, as great as it was, he gets injured, and now you're missing him for a month, and him being gone can potentially play into you missing the playoffs. It's just a bad situation in Dallas. I'm tired of talking about Dallas. I'm tired of talking about the Luka trade, but every time you look up, there's just something else coming from this trade that just makes it worse and worse and worse for the Mavericks. I'm wishing them well. I really am. And the best thing that they have for them is All-Star Weekend approaching. Hopefully that time off, you know what I mean, can allow Anthony Davis to, rest up. They did get Kyrie in the All-Star game. He's going to be Anthony Davis' replacement. Shout out to Trae Young. He's going to replace Giannis Antetokounmpo. But yeah, man, I just think that is a horrible injury to happen at this time, not only for the sake of the Luka trade, but also for the sake of winning and losing games. You know what I mean? They are in a position where they need every single win that they can get. They just had a very, very tough loss in overtime to the Sacramento Kings. DeMar DeRozan with a nasty game-winning step-through shot over both defenders. And it could get tight like that in the Western Conference, where you look up at the end of March or in April, mid-April, right before the playoffs happen, and you could be one of those teams that missed the play-in or missed the playoffs by half a game or one game. So every game is starting to count right now. And to not have a center being available for the next couple of weeks is going to be a tremendous blow for the Dallas Mavericks, especially considering the fact that you're in the Western Conference where you have Jokic, Sengun, Sabonis, all of these bigs that you're going to have to face. So get well soon, Anthony Davis. That is the conclusion of the All-Sympathy team. The next award that we have, I was trying to think of something creative to call it. And so we end up coming up with the name February 29th, which is AKA the leap year. So we're giving out the award for the sophomore leap. I got a couple of guys. The first one is a no-brainer, right? I don't want to do the obvious things, but I have to give this guy some love. Amen Thompson has really taken off and has become a darling in the NBA. And I talked about it on the Numbers on the Board podcast a little bit. I am a fan of Amen Thompson, obviously because he's an incredible player, but I love what he stands for as a player. In a league where shooting is becoming a premium, for him to have the impact he's having without having to be, this outside threat, to me is immaculate. I love it. And I think we need more unique, creative players to come into the game and just give us a different look, right? I have no problem with three-point shooting. I have no problem with pace and space. But, we do need a little curveball here and there. And I feel like Amen Thompson embodies that. And for Houston to not have that legitimate A guy, they have this complete team that's helping them win games every single night. You got Jalen Green one night, Sengun one night, Amen Thompson one night. I've seen Dylan Brooks have a night. Fred VanVleet has had a night. I love that. Ime is coaching his ass off. They're locking up defensively. They're getting out in transition. They're doing what they got to do to get wins. But it does seem like Amen Thompson is throwing his hat into the ring for whose team this is going to be. It looked like it was a race between Sengun and Green. And obviously, Sengun has the lead. He's been acknowledged as the all-star. But Jalen Green has these stretches where it's like, I don't know. This young dude is the real deal. He can close out games, take over games, hit the game-winning shots, hit the big shots. That looks like he has a chance to still be that 1A guy for them. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Amen Thompson is making defensive plays, chase down blocks. He's guarding other teams' best players. He's getting the passing lanes. He's dunking on people. He had the 30. He's having triple doubles. 30-point game winner against the Boston Celtics in TD Garden over Jaylen Brown. Just really taking over for the Houston Rockets, and that has been an interesting fold into the season for me. And again, I'm a big Amen Thompson fan, but I didn't expect the leap to be this much this soon. So shout out to Amen Thompson. He's really doing his thing. Another name I wanted to throw out there was Andre Jackson. Andre Jackson for the Milwaukee Bucks. I love the way he plays, kind of like Amen Thompson. He's not a guy that is traditional as far as the NBA. He's not the unique, I'm sorry, not unique. He's not the typical 3-and-D wing or 3-and-D guard. He's a guy that's a blue-collar guy, putting his hard hat on every single night. Took him a while to kind of get in a rotation for the Bucks when Doc first got there. I remember in the playoffs, Doc said something like, man, that Andre Jackson guy is kind of good. He can play on. And we all was like, yeah, play his ass some more. And they kind of got in a hint. And I just think he gives them something that they need. He's the type of guy that I want on my team if I was constructing a team, a guy that does all of the little things that you need to win. He's fearless. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he's not scared to shoot him. You know what I mean? He'll dunk on you. And, that was some of the things that I saw at UConn when I watched him. He's just a winning player that is willing to do all of the things your team needs to win ball games. And when you talk about surrounding top-end talent like Dame and Giannis, these are the type of guys that you want. Guys that can fill into a role, guys that are versatile, and guys that know how to impact the game beyond just scoring or box score numbers. So shout out to Andre Jackson. I just love impactful guys that can do it on all different levels. This is a guy that can get you 5 assists. He can get you 7 rebounds. He can get you 12 or 13 points. He may have a game where he makes 2 threes. If he does that, Lord knows the Bucks have a great chance of winning. He can play off the ball, backdoor, get in transition, guard other team's best player or offensive player, be a good help defender, be aggressive on in the passing lanes, get blocks. He's a really good shot blocking guard, in my opinion. For him to be only 6'4", 6'5", he blocks a lot of shots and gets down there in the trenches with a lot of the bigs and plays a much bigger size than his listed height and weight. And then last but not least, for sophomore leaps, just acknowledging some guys, Cam Whitmore, a guy that fell in that same draft that Jalen Hood-Schifino and Jaime Jaquez was in. They talked about his physicals like Mark Williams, something about his knee. He ended up going to the Rockets. There was a tough part in this sophomore season where he was a little bit frustrated with his minutes. They had little clips and pictures of him on the bench, not celebrating, kind of pouting or whatever, holding his head. And, shout out to Ime. I'll never forget. Ime went up there and said, hey, he's frustrated. And I'm okay with that. I'm not a sensitive coach. Like, I've been in the NBA. I know how it is. Players are going to get frustrated. It's a human nature thing. And I felt like having a coach that was accepting of that and being more understanding than trying to be, a disciplinarian at time, it allowed Cam to kind of reset, get his shit together. And I feel like he's been scorching ever since. When Cam Whitmore gets on that floor and has an opportunity, he gets buckets and he gives the Rockets a punch that I think a lot of teams around the league wish they had right now. And a lot of teams are going to regret that they passed on Cam Whitmore. So shout out to Cam Whitmore, Amen Thompson, and Andre Jackson. Those are our February 29th award winners, a.k.a. the Sophomore Leap. Next award, one that a lot of y'all are going to like. Not a lot of GMs are going to like. Not a lot of owners are going to like. But Major Bag Alert Award, a.k.a. Pay That Man. These are 5 guys that deserve to go into this open market this offseason and get major bags. Some underpaid guys that I think are really, really deserving for a raise. Again, I know owners and GMs are going to be like, nah, keep him a secret. We don't want to use our cap space. Everybody's so cap, what is it? They're so cap nerdy all of a sudden because of this first apron and second apron. We saw the trade deadline where there was like 5 or 6 trades. It was like, okay, we all were just looking like, what is that doing? And then you find out 30 minutes later, oh, they did this trade because that trade puts them $350,000 under the first apron. This trade gets them $1 under the second apron. So now, because they're $1 under the second apron, they can keep their draft pick. Or because they're $900,000 under, they can go out and be buyout candidates for a player. It's just a whole mess. But nevertheless, it is what it is. First guy on this list, Malik Beasley. Shout out to Christian. Christian threw out the name Malik Beasley, and I said, boy, you damn right. The way Malik Beasley has been hitting these three-point shots for the Detroit Pistons and the impact he's had as a vet, it's been night and day. We talked about all last year, hey, this Cade Cunningham guy is extremely good. You just have to put some shooting around him. They went out and they got Malik Beasley, and Malik Beasley has answered the call. My only thing that I told producer Christian, Malik Beasley, I'm trying to say this the right way. Malik Beasley is one of those guys where his seasons are hit or miss. And that's the only thing that I could see teams being hesitant with, right? Like we've seen Malik Beasley be a Laker. We've seen him be on the Bucks. And those were two different players. I'll never forget Mike from the Numbers on the Board podcast, my co-host. He looked at me and said, now why Malik Beasley couldn't shoot the ball like this when he was on my team? Right. And I think that's why certain shooters, you got Malik Beasley, Luke Kennard, and there's a handful of others that I can name. Their market is always weird because I don't know if teams are in a space to commit long-term money to shooters. That's just what it is. A lot of these shooters are just on 1-year deals. If you really shoot the hell out of the ball, you might get on 2-year deal. I think the Duncan Robinson contract from the Miami Heat made a lot of teams, say, you know what? Maybe shooting ain't that damn valuable. Like we probably can just find some shooting. Now you do have guys like Grayson Allen, who got paid from the Suns, and I really like the contract that they gave Grayson Allen. He deserved it. But Grayson Allen showed a lot of consistency with his shooting, and I think guys like Malik Beasley may have to do the same thing. So I could be wrong. There could be a team out there that thinks all they are missing is the shooting that Malik Beasley gives, or maybe the Pistons reward him and say, you know what? You've been not only an incredible shooter, you've been good to the locker room. You've been a good vet for everybody else in here. I've seen little things online outside of the actual basketball games where Malik Beasley is doing dope shit. I've seen him wait for Cade Cunningham to finish his interviews. I've seen him get the game ball for players and different things like that. So his impact is going beyond the basketball court, and he's actually being a legitimate veteran. So maybe he gets rewarded by the Pistons. I do remember him being scared of potentially being traded at the deadline and them going and telling the Pistons, like, hey, I know this is a business. Y'all got to do whatever y'all got to do, but I enjoy being here and I want to be here. So if that mean anything, allow me to stay here. They did. Malik Beasley, pay that man. Major bag alert. The next guy we got is a guy out there in Minnesota. This is a guy that was rumored to have. I'm gonna tie both of these guys in. Two guys out there in Minnesota. It was rumored that they traded Cat to have flexibility, obviously in the long run, but they also wanted to make sure that they were able to bring these two guys back, and that is Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Two guys that I have extreme admiration for the game. I love Naz Reid, Big Jelly. He's been so unique the way he shoots the basketball. And I think because you lost Karl Anthony Towns, you definitely feel the pressure of having to keep Naz Reid. And he just feels like one of those guys, him and Nickeil, they feel like they help the team go. They're part of the heartbeat for that team. And it just would be weird to not see them with this group. It's them two, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards. Like, to me, that's really like almost your core, right? No disrespect to Rudy or Mike Conley or any of those other guys. But I think those four I would love to see go forward. And I think if Anthony Edwards had to pick any three teammates he can have rock with him, he would probably pick those three. That's just my thinking. I could be totally wrong. One thing I'm realizing as we do more and more teed up episodes, I'll be wrong as hell. Like, the trade deadline was the most glaring one. I love the clip of me saying, man, this is going to be a dead-ass trade deadline. I don't think shit going to happen. And then the next thing you know, 72 hours later, Luka Doncic to the Lakers. And then they showing the guy, oh, man, I'll be wrong as hell. So, for all I know, Anthony Edwards probably hate all three of them. He probably asking their ass to be traded as I'm speaking. I don't know. But if I just had a guess, I would think Nickeil, Naz, and McDaniels are his guys. And I just think that they give the Timberwolves that swag. Now, it's also the thing that the Timberwolves potentially could be owned by Alex Rodriguez, and I forget the other guy's name. I'm sorry. I'm just a big baseball fan. A-Rod, one of my favorite players of all time. I don't know what that's going to mean for the Timberwolves. I think Alex Rodriguez and his guy that's trying to get it from Glenn Taylor, I think they're going to be big spenders. I don't know. You never know with these owners. You can talk a big game, but then the reality of getting that salary cap spreadsheet in front of you and realizing, oh shit, we got to pay how much over the tech? That's a different conversation. So I believe they are going to be spenders, though. I believe so. And we'll see if they can actually get the ruling from the NBA and Adam Silver to actually become the owners, because apparently they had the arbitration meeting in court it was favorable for them. But there's one last process where the other owners and Adam Silver got to have a voting, and they got to get 27 approvals before they become the actual owners. And apparently Glenn Taylor has been a part of the boarding or whatever they call it. And so he might have some people on his side that say, hey, we're going to stay loyal to Glenn. We'll see. But Nas Reed, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, pay them boys the bag. They mean a lot to Minnesota. They've given y'all a certain culture, a certain swagger. And, yeah, they're the heartbeat. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been amazing. He has been amazing this year. We already know what Nas is, but Nickeil has stepped up tremendously. He's came off the bench. He started. He's been knocking a three-point shot down crazy. He's been defending all over the place. If he did leave, I would love to see Nickeil Alexander-Walker have an extended role or a bigger role. I'm not saying I want him to leave, but if he did, please, Nickeil, go to a team where you can get a bigger role. That's just my own personal thing. Staying on the topic of guys that deserve a bag, major bag alert. Mark Lore. Shout out to Kat. She's in the comments saying Mark Lore. Mark Lore, I want to give you your shout out in case y'all ever want to give your boys some tickets or show some love when I'm in Minnesota. Ty Jerome, man. Pay Ty Jerome that bag. Nothing more than I love than guys that work on their game. Ty Jerome spent all that time at Virginia. I wasn't a big Virginia fan. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know why. I just did not like their team that much, and they lost. And then I was like, you know what, man? I feel for them guys. And then they came back and won, and I kind of liked the team. I like Kyle Guy, Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, obviously, and then my boy Kihei, the little point guard Kihei. But yeah, once Ty Jerome kind of left Virginia, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I seen him around the league. He was with the Thunder and shit like that. And I was like, oh, it's Ty Jerome. It's cool. Didn't think too much of it. But every year he kept getting better and better and better and better and better. And when I mean better, he would just show a little flash. He would get opportunity. It's almost reminiscent of a guy like Peyton Pritchard. I remember Peyton Pritchard used to say, man, hey, the Celtics can trade me. And this is a championship team. We like, what? You asking for a trade? But he like, man, I work on my game. I want to play. And I know I can play. And I used to think Peyton Pritchard was out of his mind. And then they started giving him opportunity. They started to let him play. And you know what? He was right. Peyton Pritchard is now killing the league. I see a bunch of people that's picking him as the potential sixth man of the year. And he was right. When you work on your game that much, you deserve to be that confident. You're allowed to be that confident. And when he got his opportunity, he backed it up with his play. And I think Ty Jerome, maybe not as vocal as Peyton Pritchard, right? He didn't have the consistency to stand on one team like Peyton Pritchard. And he never got to the point where he was demanding playing time. But again, Ty Jerome is just a guy who you can tell works on his game. And every time he gets an opportunity, he parlays it into a moment and shows why he deserves more and more and more minutes. He's doing his thing with Cleveland. They obviously taking over the league. And I love the nights where a guy gets rest or, a guy is sitting out and Ty Jerome is getting more minutes and he goes to work. And shout out to Kenny Atkinson. I also think it's no mistake and it's no coincidence. Certain coaches bring a certain identity and a certain feel to a team that allows guys to have freedom and to play confident. Basketball is a game that is based on confidence. If a guy does not believe in his abilities or if he's in his own head, he is not going to have success. He's going to second guess every single thing he's doing. That's at the youth basketball level, the high school level. That's in college. That's in the pros. That's overseas. That's men's basketball. That's women's basketball. Confidence is everything. And Ty Jerome this year with the Cleveland Cavaliers has looked as confident as I've seen him. I think he looked more confident than he did in Virginia. Like, he just be out there hooping, like just literally hooping. And he don't do anything spectacular. He ain't got a 45-inch vertical. He's not Steph Curry. He's not 6'9". He is kind of tall for a guard, 6'4", 6'5". But he goes out there, plays out of the pick and roll. If you go under, he'll make you pay. If you come around and try to chase him, he'll attack and he can make decisions with the basketball. Shout out to Ty Jerome. Cleveland, prioritize that man. He is making $2-point-something million this year. You play around if you want to. Ty Jerome is a guy that if I was one of these other teams and I had some cap space, I would not only put him on my team, but I would have no problem taking him away from the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's just my humble opinion. If I had some cap space, I would pay that man that bag, and I would take him away from the Cleveland Cavaliers. But that's just me. I'm a snake. I'm a snake. Damn it, I'm a snake. When it comes to the NBA shit, I'm a snake. When my family, my friends, I'm as loyal as can be. If I was a GM, I'm a snake you. If you let your player get to the open market, I'm snaking you. Last guy on the list for major bag alert, Yabusele, Gershon Yabusele. He's making the minimum. He's making like $1 million. This is an easy call. Philly don't deserve you. You should have brought your ass over to New York. If you were going to take $1 million, you should have came to the Knicks, damn it. But no, he's going to hit the open market. He's going to get a lot more than $1 million. It's going to be a big loss for the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm actually honest. I'm surprised they didn't trade him. Just because you want to get something rather than nothing. Even if it was just a second-round pick, a lousy second-round pick, he's literally not returning for $1 million. I'll tell you right now. He's going to be very sought after. I could see double-digit teams reaching out to him and his agent when free agency starts. No doubt about it. So, again, shout out to all those guys. I think they're really deserving to get raises, and I don't want to upset no owners or no GMs, but make sure y'all pay them, man, for that major bag alert. Coming down to our last couple of awards, we have one of my favorites, the MVRP, Most Valuable Role Player. Listen, I'm going to set the record now. There's many answers. I'm setting the record straight because the comments, and I know they might clip this one, and y'all gonna be in there, what about him? What about him? What about him? There's gonna be a lot of suitable guys, y'all. Relax. Everybody want their team to be mentioned or a guy from their team. Relax. This is one award. We cannot name 38 guys for one award. Just got to say that. But ultimately, the two guys I want to shed some light on, my big fella out there in L.A., Zubac. He's been probably one of the most impactful role players. He's getting to the point where I think he's the most underrated big in the game. I really do. The work he's put in offensively to mesh with James Harden, that pick and roll, the way he's controlling the glass and rebounding the basketball is at a high level. He's taking steps defensively and allowed them to have the defenses they have with the Clippers. This dude is just a monster to me. I really love his game a lot. I don't think he gets talked about nearly as much as he should. And I think he's been the one of the most underrated facets to this team's season this year. And for them to have the success that they're having, they didn't have Kawhi for a while. James Harden was being the system, but he wasn't, efficient in his shooting, which is fine. I'm not the efficiency police. You had Norman Powell take a step up. A lot of those things got talked about. Zubac has not been the guy that I felt like has gotten his just due for the impact he's had on this Clippers team, having the success that they're having. And I think he's going to be really, really good for them in the playoffs when the game slows down and becomes way more half court. A lot of people are going to see his game on that national level, and they're going to take notice then. But Zubac is my most valuable role player. Another guy that I do want to acknowledge. Him and his team have kind of turned the season around. I'm not going to say him. He's never a guy that's going to have to turn his season around. His game is real simple. He knows what he does. He knows his role, and he is a star in it. Tamani Kamara out there with the Portland Trail Blazers. I love this dude. He's never going to have the numbers that's going to jump off the page at you. He's not going to be a guy that I think is ever going to get an all-star vote or anything like that. But what he brings to the Portland Trail Blazers and that young team goes beyond the box score. And when you look at the success that they've had over the last week or so, the last 12 or 13 games, he is as a big part of that as anybody else in that locker room. And I agree with Portland Trailblazer fans. When I'm clicking on articles and I'm seeing trades that should happen, and they got the Trailblazers just trading Kamara anywhere, I'm like, y'all ain't watching Blazer games. The Blazers ain't just handing him away to a playoff contender. That's just not happening. So I need y'all to wake up, start watching some Blazer games. You ain't got to watch all 82, but you need to watch enough to understand that he's not going for a second-round pick. Wake the fuck up. Last but not least, my favorite award. And this is the last time I'm going to talk about this guy. I promise. I'm calling this the Shawty Low Award. And those of you at home that don't know, Shawty Low, rest in peace, an Atlanta legend. He had a big song back in the day called he had a couple of big songs back in the day, but one of the big songs he had was Foolish. So this is Shawty Low of the Year for the most foolish person in the NBA. Nico Harrison. You guessed it. Your parlay hit. Nico Harrison won Shawty Law of the Year, the most foolish man in the NBA. Nico, I promise I'm done now. I'm done. I ain't going to talk about you no more unless you trade Anthony Davis in the offseason for somebody else. I don't know. But at this point, I don't need nothing to say about Nico Harrison. He is getting enough attention. Maverick fans are on his ass. They saying he hiring security. It ain't that deep for me. I just think the trade was stupid. I don't want to see nobody get hurt or be threatened or anything like that. But that is a wrap on Pee Wee the Plug's Midseason Awards. I'm now welcoming producer Christian to the show. We're going to do some all-star predictions, and he got some other stuff we want to dive into. I do want to say, though, before we start with the predictions, we do have the live show in San Francisco. I believe that's Saturday. I don't know why I'm telling you it's sold out. You can't get in anyway. What Chris Brown say? I don't even know why you hating from the outside of the club. You can't even get in.
Legal.
What you got for me, though, Christian?
So, All-Star Weekend's looking a little different this season. One of the changes is the skills challenge. We've got Team Cavs, Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Team Rooks, Risa Shea and Alex Sarr. Team Spurs, CP3 and Wemby. And Team Warriors, this one's kind of random, Draymond and Moses Moody. Any opinions there of who you think is going to win?
I'm going with the Spurs one. Give me Wemby and Chris Paul. Yeah, I mean, I hope that this is fun. They've tried to get creative with this. It's one of those things that's just ahead of me. I may go get my drink during this.
There were a couple years I feel like where the skills challenge was fun and the guys were really getting after it when they had to like hit it was like bigs versus
boom
guards and they were hitting three. They had to like hit that three and then
should have never touched that. Should have never touched that. I like the bigs versus the guards. We got so many bigs that can. Nas Reed would have been fun to watch and something like that this year.
3-point contest. I know we mentioned. Surprised not to see Malik Beasley in here. Second in the league in threes made, but we still got a really good lineup. Brunson, Cade, Garland, Hero, Heald, Cam Johnson, Dame, and Norman Powell. Any guesses on who gets it done?
It's hard not to go Dame. He's the most prolific shooter of all these guys. But I am gonna switch it out. I'm gonna go Cam Johnson. When I think about Cam Johnson's shot, I can picture him smoothly getting it off the rack and getting to his shot. I don't know how Cade is going to look getting into his shot off the rack. I hope maybe Cade is going to surprise me. Same with Garland. I see Garland doing so much. Garland is a good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. So I think Dame is going to be the heavy favorite. Obviously, Buddy Hield can really let that thing fly. I'm going to go Cam Johnson, though. It's something about I'm envisioning him easily getting the ball off the rack into his shot. He has a very good textbook shot.
I fully agree. Cam Johnson was going to be my pick too. Or Buddy. I think Buddy Hield would be my second pick.
Buddy Hield is
Brunson,
not
Cade,
bad.
and Garland. I feel like most of their threes are off the bounce now.
I agree. And I'm a Jalen Brunson guy. Jalen Brunson is my number 2 just because I'm a ride with my Knicks. But I feel you on that.
Even Norman Powell and Hero, I feel like.
Hero,
I kind of rhythm guys now.
I can see Hero in this. Norman Powell, you right about that. He might be the most rhythm shooter in this entire set. No, I'll take that back. We got some ball dominant guards on this list.
Then dunk contest, obviously a little biased. We got to collab with Buzelis last week, but competing against him is the 2-time defending champ Mac McClung, Andre Jackson, and Stephon Castle. And you got to go Buzelis, right?
I think Stephon Castle is slept on. I've seen some of his dunks from high school. But yeah, after Modest invited us out to see some of the stuff he working on, and hey man, he got a real legit chance at winning this. He is. I forget how athletic this dude is, man. I really do. And I'm not just saying that because we was there with him, and because he's a little homie, but like when you have that much athleticism with that much length, the dunks just the creativity is limitless. It's just, you know what I mean? The length is crazy. We were throwing him lobs. Mike Hurd threw him a lob and he dunked it. Kenny threw him a lob. You know, Kenny is a non-passing. Kenny ain't no passer, and he was dunking it. Now you know he was gonna catch my shit, because I'm a hell of a passer. But
that was hilarious. People were making fun of Mike for his pass that looked like a shot.
Mike is crazy. Mike is one of a kind. Shout out to Mike, man. He never gonna see the shout out because do you think Mike has ever watched this podcast.
He's a busy man. He got it maybe on 2 times speed. I would love to see him listen to your Zubac segment though,
Yes,
because he's a
biggest
hater, isn't
Zubac
he?
hater. Yes, yes. Nick Richards is a better basketball player than Zubac. That's what Mike Hurd said, y'all. He walked
Andre
back that
Jackson.
statement, though. He did walk back that statement.
Okay, good. Well, because that was crazy. That was an eclipse on the board,
Mm-hmm.
as it deserved to be. I did want to say Andre Jackson had a putback dunk this year that was like one of the highest. I feel like one of the highest in-game dunks I've ever seen.
I like Andre. He is. I don't think he get enough credit for his athleticism. He's always been like this like mega athletic guy. Back to the UConn days. He used to have some posters with UConn too.
Speaking of college basketball, to close out today's show, we're about almost like a little bit over a month out from Selection Sunday, and it's never too early to start thinking about who could be cutting down the nets, who's going to end up at the Final Four this year. You know, there's a few teams at the top of the sport, Auburn, Duke, Houston, Bama, that are kind of emerging from the pack. And I remember you said Alabama was your title pick in episode 1. So are you still feeling good about Alabama? And how are you looking at those first 4 teams?
Yeah, man, I'm loving Alabama right now. I'm staying with my Alabama pick. I do like the way that Duke has looked. Obviously, outside of the Clemson loss, but ain't nothing wrong with a loss here and there. But yeah, Alabama just they check every box for me, man. They really do. They have the experience. They have the guard play. They have size. They shoot it well enough. They check a lot of the boxes for me. The only thing that I would say is that it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and we've seen Alabama have the teams like this last couple of years, and they fell short. It was super close, but I think this could be the year for them, man. I'm really locked in with Alabama as my pick to win it all. Shout out to Nate Oates.
I'm a huge fan of them too. They got a big one Saturday. They're hosting Auburn, so that's going to be probably one of the best games of the regular
Money
season.
maker. I don't think I'm gonna be able to watch it, but money maker.
All right, and also Auburn's odds to win the titles anywhere between plus 900 to plus 1400 right now.
I ain't mad at that.
Good.
They do have a team full of guys my age.
Then next tier, I want to hear who you're.
Wait. Let's address that. How do you feel about Auburn having that old ass team as a college basketball fan? Because you're a pure college basketball fan who's been watching for a very long time, most of your life. Do you feel a way with college basketball being so old, and you got guys that are like their team is the average age is like 23 or something like that? It's close to an NBA, a Thunder team.
Well, one, I think it highlights, when you see a guy like Cooper Flagg, when you see a VJ Edgecombe, when you see these freshmen tearing it up, it's even more impressive as they're playing.
Absolutely.
23-year-olds, which is crazy. But I don't know. I look at a guy like Janai Broome, who, starts at Morehead State, plays there 2 years, comes to Auburn. This is his 3rd season now. Obviously lost to Yale in the first round last year. It is cool to see a guy like that who's, we've seen the transfer portal era have its highs and lows, and like to me that's a high. Like it's cool to me that Janai Broome, can go to Morehead State, ball out, stay in college basketball, get paid, and get that 5th year from the COVID. I know we're the COVID 5th year. This is the last year where we're going to get that. So this is probably the oldest oldest year we'll see.
You think? Because remember, that what you just said is true, but remember the JUCO years don't affect your eligibility. So you can do 2 years at JUCO and be a 20-year-old freshman when you get to Division I basketball. It doesn't count against you anymore. So I don't know. We might still see, right? If I do 2 years at JUCO and then I transfer to Auburn, I'll be a 20-year-old freshman. I do 4 years. I'm going to be 24, 25, like we might not really see the difference. Or what if I also get hurt and I redshirt a year like that, or I just redshirt? And now we're talking about, being a 25, 26-year-old senior, So I don't know. We might, the game, my dad says it all the time, and we're going to have my dad on the show soon, y'all, after the All-Star break. We're going to figure something out. But my dad is saying it's so funny that the NBA gets younger and college gets older. And he's been saying that for a while now, and I'm agreeing with him. I don't have no problem with it because, guys deserve an opportunity. But, the COVID stuff and rightfully so. The COVID year was supposed to be made up. It did get kind of out of hand. There was a graphic in college football, not college basketball, where a guy was like a 28, 29-year-old tight end. I don't know if you saw that graphic. It was going viral, but it was like, damn, a 29-year-old tight end, and he had like ACL, all these different injuries, so he kept red shirting, and that's how he was able to keep his eligibility. I remember a couple years. What was my guy on Memphis's name? Memphis had a guy that was like 27 years
DeAndre
old.
Williams, maybe?
Yes, 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 and that was kind of crazy. But I think the game is potentially headed there. That JUCO rule is real big. I think
I
a
didn't
lot
know
of
the JUCO
guys,
rule changed.
yeah, they determined it earlier this year, where like it doesn't count against your eligibility. So you'll see a lot of guys maybe taking that route. Like, I'll do 2 years in JUCO. I'll still have 4 remaining years of eligibility once I transfer over into an official D1 program. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Shout out Jay Crowder. Shout out my boy Alondes Williams. There are definitely a lot of good college players that
For
started there.
sure.
You know what the
For
crazy thing to
sure.
me is though, P? So yesterday, Louisville got a commitment from a 21-year-old German dude who's been playing professional basketball. How is that? How is that allowed? To me, that's more problematic than guys getting an extra year
That,
for injuries or coming from JUCO. How can a 21-year-old dude who played professional basketball in Germany be a freshman
yeah.
at Louisville next year?
That's a great point. They got to figure that out, because I remember when LaMelo wanted to go to college, but they were talking about his eligibility because he played overseas. Remember with I think he went to Lithuania or something with
Mhm.
Jello, and he wasn't able to play college basketball. So they got to figure that out. If LaMelo or American players, once you go overseas as an American-born player, you forego your college. Brandon Jennings, when he went over, even though Brandon Jennings was supposed to go to Arizona, and I think he had bad grades and was going to have to sit out a year. Once we go over there as American players, we can't go back to college. We lose all eligibility. So you bring up a good point. Like if overseas is professional, why doesn't it apply on both sides? I don't know the answer. Maybe somebody in the comments will be able to break it down for us. I haven't, given it a deep dive or anything like that. But that's right. Like, imagine if Luka Doncic would have came over and played college basketball. A guy who was a EuroLeague MVP.
In terms of just the age of some of these top teams, though, like there really are a lot of teams with led by these fifth year seniors, these 23-year-old guys. Houston comes to mind.
Yeah.
Kansas is really old. Let me go through this next tier. Tell me of this next tier who you think's the best value player or which team's the most appealing to you. Iowa State, Tennessee, Florida, Texas Tech, who's been rising a lot. I like them a lot. Kentucky, Michigan State, Kansas, UConn, Illinois, Marquette, Arizona.
I would have to go Texas Tech. Texas Tech has been playing really, really well. Um, there's also a team I don't think you named, St. John's. St. John's has been
Mm.
really turning it up as of late as well. The only thing with St. John's is they don't shoot the 3 ball at the rate that I would like, but they got some really good wins. But yeah, I would say Texas Tech and St. John's. And also, I'm gonna throw another one in there that you didn't name. I don't think you named. You named a lot of teams. Maybe you did name them. Memphis and Penny. I
Mhm.
love the way Memphis is playing right now. And I know a lot of people aren't sold on Penny Hardaway as a coach or whatever, but I like Haggerty. I'm a big fan of my guy Tyrese Hunter from Iowa State. Then he went to Texas and everything like that. They got the big fella who was at Illinois last year, Danger. They got what's my other guy name? There's another guard. I forget his name.
Colby
It's
Rogers.
like Rogers. So I like how
Michigan.
they're playing. Good tempo. They shoot the 3 crazy. Love the guard play that they have. They don't rebound as much as I would like, but that's fine with the tempo that they play. And then last but not least, I got it written down right here. I wanted to make sure I had this note when I brought them up. They're 8-0 in close games. We know how March Madness gets. And I feel like a lot of teams, especially those, I used to be concerned with teams that blew out everybody, because when adversity hits, it's going to hit in the tournament. A lot of teams shake and break. Being 8-0 in close games, just playing 8 close games gives you a lot of experience, but being able to win them makes me a lot more comfortable with this Memphis team than I probably would have been in previous years. I like what they do, and I think PJ Haggerty does not get enough national attention for how good he is. So I would say Memphis, but I do like Texas Tech. They've been convincing me as of late. I do like Texas Tech.
Couple of notes on those teams. Memphis is, you said they can shoot the 3 ball. Number one in the country at
Yes.
40.3%. St. John's on the other end is 29% on the season.
Yeah, they got to get that percentage. So at number one, they're about 40%, 41%, 40%.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, St. John's. St. John's got what it they got what it takes. They definitely can win games still, but yeah, man, you got to be able to shoot that three ball. The only thing about Memphis too, as good as they shoot it, is that going to be something that they die by? Because a lot of teams live and die by the three. Sometimes in tournament play. So we'll see. But I love the combination of talent that Memphis has over there, and I think they've been doing a really good job. They've got some really good wins too. Memphis beat UConn, right? I know it ain't UConn the last year, but that's still a good win. I believe they beat Michigan State. Who else did they beat? They beat
They beat
Clemson. Then
Clemson, I
yeah,
think.
Clemson, who has been really good as of late. So I like Memphis. I like Memphis a lot, man. I like Memphis.
And you mentioned the close games. Let's not forget their last two NCAA tournament appearances were a loss to that Gonzaga team with Timmy and I
Jalen
think
Derrick.
maybe Chet. They could have
Yeah,
won that.
Chet. Jay had Jalen Duren was on that
And
Memphis
Andrew
team. Yes,
Nembhard.
they could have won that. They really Memphis played them really well that entire game. And then yeah, they lost at the end. I'll never forget that was Jalen Duren's freshman year. I think Imani Bates is on that team as well.
Yep, he was, and he played really well in that first game against Boise State. And then the next season, they played Florida Atlantic, who obviously went on to make the Final Four. And Memphis,
Yes.
Kendrick Davis was calling timeout, and they didn't give it to him. And then Florida
That was
Atlantic goes and
heartbreaking.
wins it. So
But
Penny,
I'm not
their
mad at that
reputation for good
because
luck.
FAU went on that run. So I ain't mad at that. But yeah, that was a heartbreaking loss. That was a
But
real
P,
heartbreaking loss.
if Memphis wins that game, they got Fairleigh Dickinson on deck. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
true.
and then they got
That's true.
Tennessee. Like that could have been them on that Final Four
That
run.
that could have been them. You're right. And boy, would that have been nice to see my boy Penny go on that run. Maybe this is the year though. Maybe you're right. 8-on close games. They check a lot of boxes. Shooting a three ball. When you shoot the three ball, when you're the number one 3-point shooting team in the entire country, I need the people at home watching this. The country is not like the NBA. It's a lot more than 30 teams. That is big. And we're in February. We're not saying these stats in November or December. Like we're late into the season and they're doing it. So you got to believe that they can knock down the three ball really well. So I'm
Let
rocking
me
with
ask
them
you.
as my mid-tier team.
Let me ask you this about St. John's.
Hmm.
St. John's is 21-3. Their three
Hmm.
losses are double overtime to Baylor with a buzzer
Yes.
beater, by 3 to Georgia, and by 1 at Creighton. So they're probably closer than anyone to being undefeated. And this is shooting 29% from deep. Don't you believe in the world where whether it's RJ or Davon Smith or Kadari Richmond or just Aaron Scott and Simeon Wiltshire, if they are able to hit the three at a respectable 34%, are they like a top five? Like, is it crazy to say that they're like one of the 5 to 10 best teams in the sport?
Is it to me it's not crazy. It's not crazy to say it at all. And I think that might be able to work in their favor. I think it's good to not get the attention, in my opinion. Now, obviously, you want to be as high. Let me see. I got a site that I use. I don't even have it up right now, but I would love to know what the prediction for their seeding is going to be.
Are you talking?
Because
Is Bart Torvik your site?
yes, so because they like, so I got it in front of me. It's saying that there'll be a fifth seed. That's their odds right now. They have their odds is that they will be a fifth seed.
I mean, they're
Five.
21-3 though. I hope they get better than a 5. I know their
Now,
resume is not as impressive, but I hope they
I
get
hope
higher.
they get better than that too. And there's a lot of basketball left to play. They're gonna have the Big East tournament. That'll do a lot for them as well. Um, but if they're a 5 seed, that 5-12 matchup can be that's one of the most dangerous ones. Is it 5-12 or 5-11? It's
No,
5-12,
5-12.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 5-12. 5-12 can be very dangerous. Those 5-12 matchups scare me. So hopefully they're able to rise up. But I'm a big believer in St. John's. The Big East is no joke. When you can handle yourself well in the Big East, and they 12-1 right now, that speaks volumes to me. The Big East is not a conference that you take lightly. And when you see a team is 12-1, you got to respect it. So shout out to St. John's and Rick Pitino. I like what they got going on there. I like Wiltshire. I like Kadari Richmond since he was at Seton Hall. Um, I obviously like Luis Jr. Um, yeah, they got a really good team over there.
Last thing before we get into your long shot sleeper pick, Texas Tech's. Do you think NBA upside, JT Toppin, Darion Williams? What do you think about their NBA case? And then Christian Anderson, maybe not this year, but in the future.
I
Any
think out of all
thoughts on those guys?
I think out of all of them, JT Toppin has the highest potential. I honestly thought JT Toppin was going to stay in the draft last year, um, but I think staying playing with Texas Tech, they're turning it up right now. Getting another opportunity on the NCAA tournament stage is only going to help him. But I would say he out of those names for sure I could see him being in the NBA. Where where's his range in this draft? This draft range is all over the place. Like he could be late first round, second round. There's so many guys that like shit after 5. I don't know where this draft is going. You know what I mean? Like honestly speaking, like there's a lot of there was a moment where I felt like Jeremy Fears was going to just keep climbing and keep climbing. I don't know where he's going to end up, but like he's a guy that like at the end of the year, depending on how his tournament look, Jeremiah Fears could be a guy that goes into like the lottery out of nowhere. So I don't know where JT Toppin's gonna go, but I definitely think he's a for sure NBA draft talent on Texas Tech. The
Honestly, based on
last
the odds. Oh, go ahead.
the last lottery pick that they had was a Jared Culver,
Tech? Yeah, it has to be, right? I'm trying to think. Who even has been in the league from Texas Tech?
and then they had the
Zaire Smith was not a lottery pick. He was just outside, right?
he was before Jared Culver.
Oh, you're right.
He was a lottery pick though. Zaire Smith was a late lottery pick to the Philadelphia 76ers.
That's who the Sixers traded Mikal Bridges for, right?
Mikal Bridges for, yep. I liked Zaire Smith. I ain't gonna lie.
He was really fun.
He was good. He was good.
Honestly, Memphis's odds are deep enough that they should count as your long shot pick. So I'm just gonna open the floor to you if there's any other team you want to shine a light on that you think's going under the radar.
Let me see. Who did I write down? St. Mary's. I like St. Mary's. Now this is a real long shot, but St. Mary's, they control the glass, they limit turnovers, they don't let you get to the line. The one thing that I will say, and I took a deep dive into them, I haven't seen too many games, or like I've seen a handful. The one thing I will say about teams like St. Mary's, San Francisco, who I also like, not to be a long shot, but I just like San Francisco's team with the guard play and the young what's the young wing name that San Francisco has? The freshman Tyrone. Oh man, I forget his name.
Tyrone Riley.
There we go. Riley IV. What is IV? The fourth? Is he the fourth with that name? Mm-hmm. He has I like San Francisco a lot. They play late. So I've seen St. Mary's more than some of the other teams that we talked about earlier today, because when I'm done watching NBA games and it's 11:30, you might turn the TV on and St. Mary's might be playing, or Gonzaga might be playing. I didn't realize that their free throw shooting was as bad as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have known that. Their free throw shooting really concerns me. But other than that, I love teams that control the glass on both sides of the court and to limit the turnovers, and as well as they defend. They got really good guard play. I can't pronounce his last name, but I've been watching him for a while now. He's really good. So St. Mary's would be my long shot along with Memphis. Who you got?
St. Mary's big man Mitchell Saxon is shooting 51%, which is never a great look. It's also crazy that your boy Penny's son Ashton Hardaway transferred to St. Mary's.
He plays over there. Yes. Yep.
Talk about different cultures. You go from Memphis, which is like, the college AAU team essentially, and the way that they play basketball, versus like the regimented tiny school out west, St. Mary's.
I wonder what got him over there. You're right. I wonder what got him over there. But I did. Yeah, he does play over there. Yep.
Also, I really like I wish he played more. Like, he only played 6 minutes against San Francisco. He had 16 against Gonzaga the game before. The freshman Mikey Lewis,
he can shoot the ball. He shoots the ball crazy. He's like AJ Green. All he's doing is shooting threes. Most of his shots are just threes. But yeah, he can shoot the ball. He'll be a guy that when we're doing season 2 next year or season 3, he's going to be a guy that everybody is like, oh my gosh, this St. Mary's kid can really shoot the ball. So yeah, I like him as well. You got a sleeper team, a long shot team before we get up out of here? Put my people on to somebody.
I will say St. John's and Texas Tech were 2 teams that I was really digging, but now the hype is caught up, so I can't say them anymore. I'm trying to think. All right, you know what? I have not given up on Gonzaga. Everyone is out on Gonzaga.
Okay.
But every year, every year they make the Sweet 16. Every year Mark Few has them playing better and better as the season goes. Like, I think it's 9 straight Sweet 16s. Like, they still they don't have Anton Watson from last year, but
Yeah.
it's the same squad. Caleb Battle can be the best scorer on the court at any time, and when you have Nemhard and Ike in that pick and roll, that is really tough to guard. I've seen it too many times to not have some faith in them. Whenever they have a down year, they still make the Sweet 16. So if you're at the Sweet 16, you only got 4 more. So never
Uh,
counting out the Zags.
I'm not mad at you, man. I'm not mad at you. I'm not ruling out Gonzaga, obviously, but I just don't think that I don't know. Maybe this is the year that they do it because they don't have as much as the punch that I'm used to them having. Maybe the punch hasn't taken them to where they thought they were going to go. Maybe just having a complete team is where it's at. So we'll see. But it is crazy that they don't have Anton Watson. You know what NBA team he played for?
The Celtics, right?
Boom. Yep.
He
Is
was
that his
he was
jersey
in our
behind you?
Hoodab. He was that's Zach Norvell. I
Norvell.
put
I keep
Anton
forgetting.
Watson in the Who Dat. We did the first one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, shout out to Anton Watson, man. He's like Perry Ellis Jr. Just felt like he was
Okay.
at Gonzaga for 15 years. Just felt like he was at Gonzaga for so many years. But yeah, man, that's a wrap for Tee It Up. Another incredible episode. Shout out to Christian and the entire team again for putting this together such quick notice so we don't have to deal with the snow tomorrow. I will be seeing y'all at All-Star Weekend. We got the Hoop Collective stream that we're doing with ESPN for the Celebrity All-Star Game. We also got the live show. We'll be shooting content out there. You're probably going to get a Tee It Up episode out there as well. I can't make no promises, but let's hope so. But yeah, we'll see y'all next time. We out. Peace.